Did you know that behind every argument we have with our friends, parents, or relationship partners are all, without exception, stemming from unresolved childhood stories? And as long as they remain unresolved, they will continue to dictate us, subconsciously influencing us, and make us react to situations in ways we don't want to. But why am I so sure our now conflicts connect to our childhood? Well, after your arguments, when you calmed down, don't you think to yourself, gosh, I acted so childishly? We cross our hands, become stubborn, we give other people the silent treatment, we kick things and we yell, or we throw tantrums, which is something a child usually will do. And no, it's not because you're immature, but because there is a child which is hurt within you and tries to express itself through you. You may know it as the inner child. To make it clear, at some point in our life, we got hurt. And because we didn't heal from it, our mind holds on to it and finds ways to connect the present situation with the event which happened to us in the past. We are brought back in that moment in time. And when that happens, the one that takes over us is the younger version of us, which explains our childish behaviors. For example, if your parents were too busy or emotionally unavailable and we got hurt because we felt ignored, how you think you're going to react if later in life you find a friend, a partner that is absent-minded or too busy with work? How about when your mother or father punished you instead of being understanding towards your mistakes? How will you react today if you're in a relationship with a spouse that doesn't put any effort into understanding you? Your subconscious mind will link past event with present happening, and we will get emotional because something inside of us is unsettled. In fact, the very feelings we felt back then are exactly what we're going to feel in this very moment, and that will cause us to react. Each person will react differently. I will react in a different way than you because our backgrounds are not the same. But we all have this one thing in common, that a part of us has not moved on from what we have been through. We may have moved on physically, but we still carry the emotional pain within us on the subconscious level. And unless we bring that pain in front of us, we still express behaviors that don't belong to the present version of us, causing drama, hurting others, and expressing ourselves in ways that later makes us feel guilt and regret. Many of us assume that there is nothing we can do about the pain, and trying to move forward will all make it go away. We assume the more we go towards the future, the more we distance ourselves from the painful event and leaving it behind. But we're mistaken, because the pain is not something which is outside. It's right here, deep inside. We may forget about the wound for a while, then a person comes along, pokes the wound, and it starts hurting all over again. It's the whole dynamic I mentioned in my previous video, and you can click the link here for those that remember. When people act or behave in a certain way, they don't define who we are, they define who they are unless we relate to their words or actions. And the way we relate, it's by identifying with past events to the present happening. So, are we doomed because of our childhood? Absolutely not. I got something that will heal your past. It has worked for me, and it worked for many others that have crossed my path. And it will work for you too, no matter what you have been through. But as much as I am eager to share my technique with you, we need to address two critical points to reach its maximum effect on you. So pay attention. First, we need to understand what an unresolved childhood event is. Many people like to address it as trauma because it is a trauma. It's nothing more than an unfinished story that doesn't have a closure, like a movie that doesn't have an ending, waiting for us to finish it. And I want to comfort you by saying that healing trauma, it's not that hard. Don't let it scare you. You already did the hardest part, which was to survive the impact when you were young. The second point I want you to understand before I share my technique is to understand what type of wound we are dealing with. No matter what our story is, no matter what we have been through, big or small, we all funnel down to 5 distinct traumas, and that is the trauma of rejection, the trauma of abandonment, the trauma of betrayal, the trauma of inferiority complex, and the trauma of injustice. These 5 scars are the wounds we need to heal so we can stop bleeding inside our relationships and onto others. It is the only way we will stop the inner war and find inner peace. Now that we know what a trauma is and how many there are, let's find which one is yours. Let's start with rejection. The defensive behavior of someone that suffers from rejection is to be the quiet type. We are reserved, introverts, and very closed up emotionally. We keep people at a distance and we create barriers and walls because we try hard to avoid attention. When the spotlight hits on us, we panic and we feel awkward because we don't know how to express ourselves. We aren't very good at socializing. We don't easily let people in because we're afraid of their judgment. If we do get judged, we get hurt and then we give them the silent treatment. This trauma is born from strict parents that judged us. They made us feel like our mistakes were a big deal and we should feel ashamed. Our inner child slowly felt distant, not accepted as part of the family, hence felt like it was a reject and didn't belong as an individual. To this day, we may have trouble finding where we belong. On the contrary to the one of rejection, the abandonment trauma needs to be out there, flashy and loud because it wants to receive the attention. When we don't get the attention, we feel tossed to the side, forgotten, and our defensive behavior is all about becoming clingy, jealous, and possessive. If that doesn't work, then we become frustrated and we are throwing tantrums. We easily get emotionally attached to people and we hate solitude. We easily fall in love and we're very sexually driven, because sexuality and intercourse is a subconscious symbol of connection. This trauma is born from parents that were not paying attention to their kids, either because they were emotionally unavailable, depressed, too busy with their work, or one of the parents literally abandoned home. Our inner child felt as if it was meaningless and his life didn't matter. Now let's move on to betrayal. When we suffer from betrayal, we are very careful whom we let into our circle. We crave security with the people we associate ourselves with. The second reason we are so selective is because we fear being used or exploited. If indeed though we do get used, we don't let easily go. We don't forgive because forgiveness for us means to let our guard down. And that is why our defensive behavior when it comes to betrayal is our obsession with control. We are always suspicious and we test others. We overthink and we usually create the worst case scenario in our head and try to prevent it in case something like that were to happen. This trauma is born from parents that were emotionally unstable. One day they were loving and the next they were angry and punishing us. This shift made the inner child believe that its parents aren't a reliable source for support nor love. Hence, the child slowly began to lose its trust. The next trauma is inferiority. When we suffer from inferiority, we are very sensitive when it comes to bullying and criticism. When we receive criticism, we don't take it so well because it's like they look down on us and they make us feel that we're not good enough or even like failures. Our defensive behavior is the aggressive type because we want to beat up the bully, or we become highly competitive in order to prove ourselves worthy. We assume the better we become, the more worthy we are, hence the more love we will receive. But this dynamic creates an enormous amount of pressure inside of us because we don't permit ourselves to make mistakes. Even worse, when we don't meet our own expectations, we turn against ourselves with harsh judgment and punishment. This trauma oftentimes is created when parents compare their child to other kids like its siblings. The parent made the child feel bad for not meeting the parents' expectations. Parents often will express their disappointment, making the kid feel like it's not good enough or even worthless. The child always felt forced to reach the standards because love came with conditions. Lastly, the trauma of injustice. When we suffer from injustice, we often get triggered when we perceive ourselves to be victims of a situation or some other person. We absolutely and utterly hate people when they hurt others because of their carelessness or their lack of mindfulness. When others don't care about us and they don't put themselves in our position, it infuriates us. Our defensive behavior is to become cold and vengeful. We do to others what they did to us to make them understand what it is like to be in our shoes. Basically, we try to act as a mirror and we give them a taste of their own medicine. What is interesting though is that because we are thoughtful and mindful individuals, we oftentimes feel bad for our behaviors because we hurt others with our rage, and many times because they don't deserve it, we feel guilty for it. This trauma is born from parents that didn't know how to divide their love equally among their children, or the child was punished for things a parent failed to explain. The child couldn't comprehend why was it in pain, and because of that, its suffering slowly turned into injustice. Now, in case you identified with more than one trauma, it is normal. It is possible to suffer from more than one of them. So, what now? First, we need to reconnect to the feelings of our inner child. We need to bring to the surface all that emotional turmoil we felt back then. We need to express all those unexpressed feelings and let it all out. We need to process them, and I'm not referring to anger or frustration, because if we look close enough, all we will find behind them is just sadness. Now, if we do have difficulty expressing our sadness, what I do recommend is to rewind the video and re-listen to the traumas I've mentioned. What you need to do is try to connect to my words emotionally. Try to feel them, embody them, not just listen to them. And don't worry, you won't be sad forever, because sadness eventually will run out. Imagine a vase which is filled with water. Slowly, by putting out the water, there won't be any water left inside the vase. Healing trauma is not a mental process, it is an emotional process. Once we actually go down that path and we express those feelings, 40% of the trauma is already healed. Now, all there is left is to use the power of visualization and visit that inner child. I am now preparing a guided meditation video which I will be releasing very soon. It will contain the specific key phrases the inner child needs to hear in order for us to heal completely from your trauma, and as a result, you will find inner peace. Thank you for watching my video. Please like and subscribe if you find this video of value. Please stay tuned for the next upcoming video, which will be the guided inner child meditation. And thank you for wanting to help yourself, for I am you and you are me.